exposed to toxins in our homes, in our cars, in our workplace. But there are things we can do to reduce that exposure. Some of them have been outlined in a book called Talking Toxicology. Its author, Dr. Noreen Khan-Mayberry, who joins me now. She's a NASA toxicologist specializing in environmental, space, food, and nutrition. Good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
Well, I'm glad that you're here to talk about this because toxins are something that we all know about. But are they naturally occurring? Where do you see a lot of the toxins?
Well, you know, toxins are naturally occurring, and that's the difference between toxins and toxicants. Toxicants include man-made chemicals, whereas toxins are only our natural chemicals like our molds, bacterial toxins, viral toxins. And we're exposed to molds constantly. It's ubiquitous, it's in the air, so we're always exposed to molds, but we're not necessarily seeing a toxic effect because the dose is what makes the poison. If you've got a higher concentration, and depending upon your individual biology, then you may experience a toxic effect.
Let's talk about some products that you brought in to just give us some examples of just how toxic things can be.
So one of the toxicants or man-made chemicals that we're exposed to most often are solvents. And we've got solvents, great amount of solvents in our homes on average. Some of us store chemicals under our cabinets, in our garages, in the shed in the backyard.
Probably everybody does, right?
Exactly, even in the trunk of your car. And you kind of think, well, it's in the bottle and it's not bothering me. Well, these things aren't the tightest seals in the world, so you've got a low-level exposure coming. And then a lot of people like to over-clean, and no one really takes the time to read a lot of these chemicals, which is why I have them facing backwards. Something like this, which is a bleach-containing product, it specifically tells you that you need to open up all of the windows. You need to heavily ventilate when you're using this product. But most people will say, oh goodness, I love the way that bleach smells in my house, and I want you to walk in and smell the chemicals in my house. Well, you're giving yourself a really high exposure to solvents. So that's one of my tips to reduce toxicity, is make sure you read your labels and make sure that you go through your house periodically, maybe every 3 months or maybe every 6 months, and make sure that you're not storing chemicals long term.
And so what are some of the risks that it puts you at if you are getting exposure to all of these, and then if you're not ventilating like you're supposed to?
So chronic exposure, which is long-term exposure, all of these solvents have effects to the central nervous system. So you start experiencing non-specific symptoms like fatigue or the inability to concentrate, and you're wondering, what's going on? Why am I so tired all the time? Why did I walk into this room and now I don't even remember why I walked in this room? A lot of it may have to do with what is called CSE, or chronic solvent encephalopathy. And so that's like a change in the brain that's caused by chronic or long-term exposure to these solvents at low levels.
So that's my problem. Now I have an excuse.
But blame it on the solvents.
But seriously, that sounds serious. Is there anything that you can do besides just reducing it to rid your body of it?
Well, there are things you can do naturally to support your body's natural detoxification system, which are your liver and your kidneys. You definitely want to eat the best foods. You want to get that broad spectrum of micronutrients that supports cellular function, because your body detoxes naturally. Detox is one of the most misused words that I hear around, and there are products promising to detox you. What you need is the best vitamins, minerals, amino acids to allow your body to detox naturally.
You have a whole list that I want to make sure we run through to help you reduce your exposure. So we talked about reducing solvents, avoiding new car smell. That's everybody's favorite smell.
I know, but it's really bad. It's chemicals that are basically off-gassing, and the newer the car, the tighter that you have it, because our cars are tighter, we want them quiet. You've got a higher exposure to a number of chemicals, primarily formaldehyde. And formaldehyde is so far-reaching in our environment. There's so many sources of formaldehyde, but you really need to reduce that exposure. You've got to get that new car smell out as soon as possible, because it causes long-term detrimental changes to your health.
Kind of hard to do when you have a new car. What do? Just keep those windows down as much as you can?
You do need to roll those windows down, and I know that's hard when you're riding around in a city like Houston. It's pretty hot, but there are other times when you can open up your window, you can vent your car while it's sitting in a parking lot, because as the heat is applied to it, you've got even a faster progression of that off-gassing of chemicals.
Oh, what is something that smells so good have to be so bad for us? That is not fair. Okay, you also say make sure you have change your filters often.
Definitely. I talked about toxins, mycotoxins, and molds. Molds emit mycotoxins, And if you're not changing your filters regularly, and some of us, we just forget.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we've got a buildup of those kind of chemical toxins along with the skin that we shed. We shed about 8 pounds of skin a year.
Disgusting.
Yes, and it's in our air, so when we're breathing each other in our home environments. And what adheres to that are those molds, it also these solvents, and we breathe them in. And it also attaches to our filters. If we don't change them regularly, we've got a higher concentration in our home.
We have so much more to talk about. We're out of time.
Definitely.
We'll have to get into water and water filters the next time. So much to
Have
say.
me back.
I appreciate you having you.
Thank you
Thanks for
so
talking to us.
much.
I'm ready
Okay.
to be toxin free.
Awesome.